Hello everyone, CryptoEat here. So today is the 10th of October 2023. Today I plan to make a full in-depth analysis for the whole crypto market using the MTF Wave Screener to scan the market first and then show you how I usually use it to pick up coins that I end up analyzing in depth with the MTF Wave Indicator. But before I do, I just need to tell you that I'm not a financial advisor and this is not financial advice. I'm simply sharing what I'm seeing here. So let's start by opening the MTF Wave Screener. So as you can see, I have a setup here where I have 3 screeners together. And what I do is I have usually those 3 screeners showing me about 96 coins in total. I start with the large caps and go lower up to mid caps. So before I start, let me just go over a couple of settings that I use on the MTF Wave Screener for those who have it. So the first thing is I set up my screen in a way that I have 3 layouts and next to each other. And I sync in the layout the symbol, the interval, and the crosshair, and the time as well. And when I do so, I also start by choosing in the sorting options here, K1, descending. And what this does is it sorts the table based on the K1 value from the top to the bottom. And the K1 is the gray MTF curve for those who are unaware of it. So I do it on all of them. I simply double click it and I choose K1 descending. And when they're all done now, let's just start with the 1-day chart. So then I look at the coins and I usually try to look at the extremes. So I look at the top and I look at the bottom. So for me now, for example, the next coins I would be looking at, for example, are XMR, QNT, QNT not necessarily, but XMR. You can see, for example, that this one doesn't have high values, like the highest value is 68.9, but it has more coins on the lower spectrum. So also what you can see here is the average is very low. A lot of coins are oversold on gray curve, and the average is about probably just up right above 10 or something like that. And at the same time, what you also can see is there are no fake ups. Fake ups can be seen on the gap value. So when they're green or minus, they are usually fake down. So it means that the gray is below the blue curve. And in this case, the only one that has like a red figure is Link, and it's very low, so it's really irrelevant. And the same thing is also visible on the second table and also on the third table. Even the red ones have very relatively low values. So the first thing we should look at, we're gonna be opening a node file here. We should be writing down the coins that we are seeing. So we have XMR. Let me just write the 1-day. We have XMR, and then we have QNT, and we also have XRP and ADA and DOT. Okay. These are from group 1. From group 2 we have Render, Trust Wallet, and we can also take a couple of the lower ones like AAVE and FTM. For the third one, we could be looking at PaxG, Clay, and maybe one of the lower ones like Osmo. And now let's take a closer look at those. So the first one we should be looking at is XMR. And remember guys, the first thing that you're trying to do when you're doing an overall analysis is trying to see which time frame is the relevant one. And you start so not necessarily by looking at the time frame that you have been looking at on the MTF, but by zooming out. So first thing is, okay, I'm gonna be looking at the 1 day just to see it. And on the 1 day, what you can see here is that this here has been very visible as an MTF wave. Like here, they have this distinct start over here, and it has been gearing up with two distinct fake downs. So if we were to just, we have had these, let's just mark them. So we have had these two fake downs, and they also corresponded with two bottoms or local bottoms. Like here and there. Okay. And now it's, for me, this is on this time frame specifically, it's on a no trade, in a no trade zone. So why? Because it's already overbought, it's already looking like a local top, and at the same time it's not worth shorting, simply because it's never recommended that you short something that has this upwards MTF like that. Usually when you want to short, you have to start seeing an MTF green curve that's curving down and not gearing upwards. So for now, this is in a no trade zone. But now let's just zoom out. I like to look at the 10-day chart usually on when I'm looking at crypto. So one thing I'm seeing is we are having this rounding green curve upwards. Let me just show you. So just let me highlight this one for you. We have had this green curve going upwards like that. So usually what you should be expecting is for this to be starting like a bullish trend upwards on the macro time frame. And while now this is the case, usually you would not want to be entering when gray is above blue and both are in this zone. What you would want to see instead, or your entry should be instead while these are at the bottom. And let me just show you really quick how much of a difference this makes. So you will always see that these usually correspond to local bottoms unless these are diverging, and we'll cover this another time. So what you can see is these were actually usually local bottoms. And so the next step would be simply now to leave that last vertical dotted line that I marked at the last local bottom, because this is now the start of the current wave. And it started, usually what you do is you mark the start of it on the local bottom like that, and then you need to be looking at a time frame which is showing this last wave as an MTF wave. Like, let me just mark this for you again. So this is now clearly a subwave of the macro structure, like just like any other one was a subwave. So what you want to do now, if you are trying to catch this with precision, you should be zooming in on this wave and make it look like an MTF wave. So in order to do that, what you should be doing is you should go back to the 1 day and you should check. As you can see, this had the same start here. If usually when you zoom in, there's like a tolerance to move it around, because at the previous chart was a 10-day, so each candle of this has 10 candles of the 1 day. So as you can see, this had the same local bottom, and it was the start of this wave. So therefore, my conclusion for Monero would be simply to set an alert for when this MTF does something like that. Let me just show you. Yeah, what I would be waiting for is for the MTF to tap down, and then I would be trying to time my entry where this would be tapping down here, so at the next tap down. And in order to catch that, I'm going to just set an alert here. And the way I'm gonna do that is simply by targeting this oversold area, not at the very bottom and not at the very top, somewhere in between. And I'm gonna be adding an alert. And when I set the settings for this alert, I'm gonna first choose crossing. And then, as you can see here, the condition is that the MTF Wave Stock RSI indicator has the K1, which is the fast RSI, a value of 9.79. And in the message, I'm going to write a message that I can recognize in a way that enables me to understand why I set this, because when you do that for many coins, you kind of get lost as of why you had this alarm set. So the way I usually do it is I write XMR USDT 1 day and then 10 day, 1 day, 10 day, possible long. And what this does is it simply shows me that the relevant time frames that I selected for this one were the 1 day and the 10 day. Okay, so when I see this alarm, I know that before I do anything, I should look at the 10 day and the 1 day. So this is how I would be looking at Monero. I would also draw a couple of lines that would be useful when entering, because what you want to do is, usually if you want to catch this one, you would want to know first where your stop loss is gonna be. So right now, if you set it below the last swing low with a buffer, it's gonna be like probably 15%. If you want it to be safer and go lower, it's going to be 20%, which is loose. And for that, we need the precision entry. And the precision entry is going to probably come when we see that the 1 day is faking down or tapping down. And with it, we could actually try to zoom in again on a time frame that shows a divergence or another tap down on a lower time frame by applying the same zoom in method on this current time frame. And when that happens, we could actually enter with a pretty tight stop loss. So much for Monero. Let's just move on to another coin, which was QNT, also on the 1 day. So QNT is actually somewhere where there's nothing happening. I never look at coins that have MTF in the middle of the MTF range. Okay, I can start by this shows immediately that this is not a coin I can actually trade based on the MTF. If I zoom out, one thing I see, it's oversold, and to be able to enter this one, I would have to be zooming in, and when we zoomed in, like you've seen, it's somewhere in between. You can see here we have a stochastic wave. It's not very clean, this one, but you can probably assume it's somehow rounding, and for that you would want it to tap down again on the 1 day. And therefore I'm gonna be setting another alert here, and I'm gonna be selecting crossing as like I did, and then I'm gonna be writing QNT check for long analysis, 1 day, 10 day. It's not as clear as Monero, but still I would resume analyzing this one when the 1 day taps down. Next on the list is XRP. And this one is looking like a failed gear up. Why am I saying this? Because when you have this MTF looking downwards like that, and its top is headed like that, it's usually like a failed gear up. This is the kind of shape that I don't trade at all. And when you look at the 10 day, for example, here, it's also not looking anything like the other ones. Probably this is looking like it's gonna be faking up somehow like that, and then everything is gonna go down. So to me, this looks like probably this is not gonna be going further up. It's looking like it's gonna be breaking this trend line. Let me just show you. It's looking like this is probably gonna do something like that. But again, it's not enough for me to short it either. Let me just look at lower time frames. Yeah, it's not something I would short or long or anything. Let's move on to the next one, which is ADA. Also on the MTF, this is not looking like the shapes I'm looking at. Why? Because this the gray here is above here gray is above blue, and this is also starting to look like it's gonna be curving down if you look at the green curve. So I'm dismissing this one. You already have several ones to inspect. And then moving on, you have dot. If it looks the same, I'm gonna be dismissing it, not sure. Yeah, also one that I don't really look at coins that have this shape here. What you can see here is simply that this is going further down. This was like a very small wave, and at the same time you have these rounding downwards like that, so it's not really something I'd be comfortable longing. Looks like it's gonna be breaking the support, and if you zoom in on the lower time frames to catch this mini wave here, if you select the last one and zoom in on the 1 day, for example, what you'd be seeing here is very simple. You'd be seeing a failed gear up as well. So this is how it looks when you zoom in, like a failed gear up. This can still go up, but it's not something I would be longing or doing anything with. So the next coin I'll be looking at is Render. And when you look at Render, the first thing you can see is you have a clear stochastic wave here showing like that. And currently we are at the pullback phase, which you can see here, this one. And also when you zoom out to the 10 day, what you can see here is this is now probably a new wave upwards, this one. And the zoom in time frame for that would be the 1 day, like we've already seen. And at that 1-day chart, what you would be wanting to see is this tap down as well. So without further analysis, I'm gonna be doing the same what I was doing before, which is set an alert. So we're targeting this tap down, as I already explained. The current MTF wave on the 1-day is visible as this one. And also there are two trend lines which are currently visible, this one and the resistance trend line, that one. So if we were to see this tap down happen while retesting this trend line, let me just show you how. Something like that, and we would be seeing this doing something like that here. This would be a good entry. Why? Because probably it could do something like this. So if I see a trend line retest while this is faking down, then I'd be interested in entering along. At the same time, if I see a clear fake down while retesting a certain zone, that's the first scenario. The second scenario is, and for that we need to look at the support levels, like for example here or here. These are two support levels, and this could be actually a big box or a wide box. I don't like to have these wide boxes, but this is either one zone or two zones, like the upper one alone and then something like that, and then another one here. So I'm just gonna be doing them as one zone. But if we would see a retest even there, let me just show you, and or something like that, I'd be interested in entering along. So the condition for entry is a tap down and or a fake down while either retesting this zone or the trend line that I've just drawn here. So for that also I'll be setting an alert the same way I did the previous ones, and then I'm gonna be writing render long possibility 1 day and 10 day, and then check for trend line support test or box test. So this is render, and then the next off the list is trust wallet. I'll be writing down here which ones are actually the ones that mattered, which were Monero, render, neither QNT, XRP, ADA or DOT actually were fruitful for me, so up to now it's only Monero and render. And now moving on to trust wallet. So instantly you can see that this has a high volume bounce here. Let me just show you this wave here had a very high volume, and at the same time on the MTF it's showing us a clear wave, a clear stochastic wave. Why? Because it has a clear start. Always look for the start. So this is the start of the wave, and it had a clear gear up. So same case, it should have a tap down before any entry, and this is where I'd be interested to long it. Okay, and if we want to look at the 10-day chart as well for context, you would be seeing actually that this had a double bottom here. And this double bottom came with a very interesting shape that I like to see on the MTF, which is this gap close here. Let me just show you this one. And usually what happens here is when you see this having those two convergences and in the middle you have this fake up, these with the double bottom, like these two are showing the double bottoms and this is the fake up in between. This sometimes is a very good entry, and at the same time another thing you should be looking at is how close blue and gray are together. Like if you look here, they're fairly close together. So now what you'd be doing is you'd be analyzing that last wave for an entry. Okay, so why? Because this had this double bottom, and then this could be actually fairly bullish and to head upwards, but at the same time you would be aiming for an entry with a tight stop loss, because now if you'd enter with a stop loss below the swing low, it would be ridiculously loose, and therefore you need to zoom in on the 1 day, and as we said already before, and you need to further analyze where your entry is gonna be, and your entry is gonna be on the next tap down, while at the same time you need to see where this happens. If this happens, there are two scenarios for that. The first one is this could happen while you are seeing this only consolidating at this zone, like doing something like that. So probably something like that, and then you get this tap down or fake down, and it's gonna probably afterwards shoot up. And in that case, if you see this tap down while it's respecting this resistance turn support level, which you can see here because of these if this happens like that, then you would be able to enter with a tight stop loss below that level, and it's gonna be giving you a very good RR. So that's possibility number one. Possibility number two would be the same tap down happening while retesting another level, like this one for example, or the one below. Okay, so one of these levels, like something like that, and then back up, or something like that and then back up. And in these cases, each one of these cases, you would be setting your stop loss below that swing low. So what we're looking for now is another tap down on the MTF, and for that we should be setting an alert. Also add an alert. Trust wallet USDT possible long 1 day by 10 day, while one of the supports. Okay, now as you can see guys, we also always write the messages in a way that are super clear for us. So this was trust wallet, and therefore trust wallet is gonna be written below with the rest of them. So let's just take a quick look on the rest. We're not necessarily gonna go over all of them, but anyway, AAVE, I'm gonna be skipping over this one because on the 10 day it's not giving a clear entry because of this shape. You can see here you have the green curve looking like it's headed downwards, while the gray and blue are not in a buying position. So at the same time you had this shape now looking like this green curve wants to go down. So at most this could be like a scalp play, but it's not worth it. Why? Because I think this is gonna be doing something like that. So actually this is probably going to be doing something like that. So actually what I'm going to be doing for this one is right the opposite. I'm going to be targeting this one if I see that doing something like that for a possible short swing, scalp, okay? And for that, I'm gonna be setting a different kind of alert. I'm gonna be setting it for when gray actually crosses green, okay? So when it crosses green at this point, I want this to alert me, and for that, I'm gonna be setting the alert where I choose crossing, and instead of the value here, I'm gonna be choosing the MTF Wave Stock RSI, and then I'm gonna be choosing K3, which is the slow RSI, and I'm gonna be writing to myself AAVE possible low time frame short scalp, also 1 day, 10 day, okay? So when that happens, I know where to look again, okay? And I'm gonna be writing AAVE short scalp. So that was AAVE. Let's move on to FTM. And quickly just noting here, this is starting to look like a failed gear up. That's looking like that, so I'm not gonna be looking at this one at all. The next one is gonna be PAX-G. Not much to see on that one, on this time frame, so let's just move on. Clay. Yeah, the 10 day is not looking nice, so I'm not gonna be looking at this one. Why? Because we are seeing here a pattern that I don't really like, which is, let me show you. We are seeing that these taps are getting lower, so you see this fake up, and then you have here what could be like a mini fake up, so I'm not gonna be looking at this one. And then Osmo. This one is a fairly new one. So first thing to do is mark the last top, zoom in on the 1 day, and you can see this could have been a nice trade, but now you can see that this is looking downwards, this green one. If it didn't have this one, I'd be analyzing this one further because it would look like something like that, but for me this is not worth the risk, also because it looks like a low volume coin and a fairly new one. So for now what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to erasing all of those, and now these are the ones that we have analyzed further, and the next step would be to look at another time frame. So we'd be looking at lower time frames and upper time frames and see which coins will show up. So to continue now, we need to do this at a faster pace. We already have a feeling of the market waves and what the relevant time frames are, as you have seen in the past couple of ones, that the 1 day, 10 day time frames are the ones to be looking at. And we already have, after analyzing a couple of ones, we already get a feel of what the current trend is in most coins, which coins are at the outer range of the spectrum of these waves, like which are leading and which are lagging. Usually the ones at the top of the list are the leading ones and the one at the bottom are the lagging ones, or vice versa, depends on how the market is going. So now we need to look at several of the other time frames to be able to add to this list. And what I did was I looked at the 12-hour and 8-hour, and then I looked at the 2-day and the 3-day, 4-day, 5-day, and the 1 week, as well as the 10-day and 2 weeks charts. And I did the same, which was writing down the ones that are at the edge, the upper edge or the lower edge of the three tables. And I'm gonna spare you the time where I did that. So the ones that I marked were IOTX, AVAX, and as well as HBAR, TRX, RUNE, MKR, DYDX, RP, XLM, Sushi, Jasmy, ALGO, ENJ, SNX, and Link. And now we're gonna move ahead with quickly looking at some of those. We're gonna try to look at all of them, but we'll see how many we'll be able to look at. So moving on from here, the first one we look at is IOTX. I'm gonna try to do this now faster, that we've already seen how I'm doing it. So you mainly see the quick analysis and which one I'm including or excluding from the final list. And now, as you can see, the 12-hour time frame is showing us now clear MTF stochastic wave, which is here. And it seems like we've already missed an entry, a short entry, which you can see here. This was the short entry. Now it's already kind of gone, so there's not much to be done at this time frame at least. And I'd like to just draw a couple of lines because I'm seeing something here, and then I'm gonna move to the next time frames. So the first thing I'm seeing, as I said, is that there was this is showing as an MTF wave here, which started somewhere here at the beginning, and now it's kind of reversing unless it manages to pull up. And as you can see, the start of this wave was here. It could be either here or there, but anyways, we just get an idea here. And now we move on to the 1 day time frame, which also shows the same. And here you can see that this probably still has some juice left, meaning it could go up like that. So it could do something like this. That's one scenario. For that also you need to be drawing the trend lines that we have at the moment. For example, this one and that one. One thing I don't like about this is it's not showing a clear entry now, even though you can see the MTF gray and blue are showing what could be like a tap down. But since this is happening on the price action with a shallow retrace, this is not a trade I usually get into. So let's just take a look at the 10-day chart. Yeah, it confirms it. Why does it confirm it? Simply because here you can see that the 10-day chart is showing this as a subwave, which we already had zoomed in on without opening the 10-day chart. And now when you zoom in, this shows already, as having moved. So if you want to enter this one, it should be upon a convincing retrace. Otherwise, you wait for it to give an entry on the 10-day, which will take probably a couple of months. So that's why we take a look on the 1 day time frame as the zoom in. And on this one, I would only enter if this does something like that. And in that case, I would enter would be able to enter with a tighter stop loss probably. Or not so tight. unless something like that. This is something that I'd be looking at. So for this one, I wouldn't be setting an alert on the MTF, but I would be probably setting an alert on the price action. So I would be setting an alert here. And I would simply write to myself, consider long, and also write that this is 1 day by 10 day. Okay, so that's one. And now we move on to the next one, which is AVAX. Yeah, this one on the 10 day is not so convincing. I've already explained this on a different one, which was showing something similar. I'm not remembering which one this is, but I don't like it when you have on the larger time frame the 10 day already faking up slightly like that. This is when I have a feeling that this is just gonna continue going down and at the same time I wouldn't really short this, because on lower time frames you see this already having moved. So this for me is not an interesting coin to look at. So I'm moving on to the next one, which is HBAR. And this one, yeah, this one on the 10 day is looking like the ones that I've already described previously, that are having this starting to curve down. So also gonna simply neglect that one. Let's just, yeah, and another reason for that is also this current green curve on the 1 day is looking like a very low stochastic wave, so there's not much to be done here. So let's just move on to the next one, which is TRX. TRX I already explained on my previous video, so I'm just gonna, yeah, TRX is already something I explained before. So for analysis, look at the video I posted before. This was a trade, and unfortunately this trade didn't go our way, although it's actually going our way, but sadly it just stopped us out before doing that. So I'm just gonna skip this one and head straight to RUNE, THORChain. So for THORChain, what you can see here is let me start with the, yeah, a time frame. I think this one was visible on a high, this one was visible on a higher time frame starting from the 2 day, and there what you can see here is simply that this one had this last wave down. So for scalps you should be looking at a long, but before doing that, let's just examine the 10 day. So yeah, this one looks like it's on a totally different wave than the rest of the market. It's ahead, so it already finished this wave up and now it's retracing. And this would be super interesting if you would see like a fake down like that on a larger time frame. So if this gives us a chance at this high time frame to do that, it would make for a perfect long-term entry. This will take several months to do that, probably like several 10-day candles, like 3 or 4 10-day candles until this does this fully. But this doesn't mean that this cannot be examined on smaller time frames. So let's just take a look back on the 2-day time frame. So what I would be seeing here is something like this. There's this trend line here, and you have another trend line there. This one is not as easily clean as the lower one. If we were to examine that last wave, like I explained before, we would mark it start. In this case, the start would be the top and not the bottom. So it would be, this is the start. So, and to do that, we would have to zoom in on the 4-hour time frame. And there you can see that we are already at this, and we already had this curving down on the MTF, like here. So while now we are tapping down there. So this makes for a potential entry. Is it ideal? I don't think so. What speaks for it is that it's tapping down while on a support trend line. But the one thing that I don't like about it is usually when you want to enter such a trade is that you would want it to be curving upwards. Like ideally I would enter a trade that would be looking like this, and I would enter it here. So probably this is gonna be doing something like that and then going back to retest. And here is where I'm gonna be more comfortable longing it, especially also because when you look at the 2-day time frame, let's just erase these. When you look at the 2-day time frame, you would be seeing that maybe this is gonna be starting to curve down like that. So it's not easy to say if this is gonna go up all the way like that, or it's just gonna do a small fake up and then it's gonna break down. So this will either do a longer correction if it's going to give us the entry on the 10-day time frame, or it's just gonna make like this and then go back down, or it's just gonna do that, then go back down from here. I'm leaning towards this one based on the MTF. So if you wanted to take a scalp long here, you would probably have to enter like that and use the fib levels for a safe 0.5, but you would see that this is probably not going to be worth it unless you can use a tighter stop loss. So you could either long this like that, or you could tighten your stop loss to be below the trend line, but then you can get stopped out on a stop hunt. So these are two ways to take the trade. Next one on the list is Maker. The next coin we're going to be looking at is Maker. And for that one, I'm going to be starting from the largest time frame, which is the 10-day time frame. And this one now is not showing anything clearly for me. So I'm going to be moving to other time frames. What appears to be happening here is a gear up, but it's not providing a clear spot where we're gonna be entering on the MTF, and hence when that happens, usually what you need to be doing is you need to continue changing time frames until you see something clearly. And so, for example, if you would go to the 2 weeks, it's not clear. What could be happening here is simply that you can see something that goes like that. So at this time, there's not much to work on. On the 10-day time frame, for example, you could be seeing it's pretty similar. Also looking like this could be like a failing green curve if it continues like that, but it's early to tell. If you go to the 1 week's time frame, you could see something very interesting here, which was that here there was a divergence, as the gray and the blue have formed a lower high while the price action has formed a higher high, like that. And yeah, this could be either reversing here, or it's gonna correct for a while before it goes further up. If you look at this time frame here, you can see that the stochastic wave is still relatively early, like we're somewhere here. It could either continue horizontal and then drop, or just drop. And either way, this is the start of the wave. You can see it here. So that's the wave in question. If we were to start zooming in bit by bit until we see a clearer MTF wave, for example, the 6-day and then the 5-day, both are showing that this could just continue going down and then do one last push up. So probably that this could do something like that. And if it were to do that, the trend line in question would be this one and that one. Although it would be relatively uncommon for this to happen, simply because if you were to count these waves, you would be seeing like this is a wave 1, 2, and then probably 2, 3, 4. That's a 3, that's a 4. So maybe this is gonna be extended somewhere like that, unless this is wave 5 here and this is not an ending diagonal at all. And in that case, you would be seeing this doing something like that. Sorry, something like that. Or even deeper, like this, and then that. So these are all options for it, but either way, there's no trade at the moment for us. So as I said, I'm only watching these trend lines. So I'm simply, for that one, I'm simply gonna add an alert here, just like we did the past couple of times. At around 15, crossing 14 MTF, and then I'm gonna write to myself, maker possible long entry 5-day chart if on trend line, and I'm gonna be evaluating it afterwards when that happens. So unless this tap down happens, like this tap down happens while we are on this time frame here, so it does it like that, that's another possibility. But either way, it's something I'm just gonna be skipping and waiting for it to just trigger the alert. The next one I'm looking at is DYDX. And that one is showing me a 10-day curve that is already, it had already faked down and then it went up while it didn't move much. So that's already one red flag usually when I see a chart. Now onto the 5-day. The 5-day also looks like it's gonna be reversing soon. This doesn't look to me like it's something worth looking at. Why? Because you have this green curve already showing like a, it's not so neat, but it's showing like a stochastic wave, and at the same time you have this probably gonna do something like that, and with it it's gonna probably break down. That's what I feel. If you look at the 1 day time frame, for example, you would be seeing, yeah, it's just not something I'm gonna be looking at the moment, so just move on to the next one. I'm gonna move on to ALGO. This one looks similar to ones that we already have described. Why? Because you can see that the 10-day time frame is showing this subwave, and that subwave, if you zoom in, for example, on the 1 day, it's not gonna be a neat one. Why? Because when you look at the 10-day, you already see that this curve here is not very neat. So if you look at this one, it's zigzagging then going up. It's not a smooth one. That's why I keep saying usually when you want to zoom in, you would want the gray curve to be smooth. You wouldn't want to see something like that, because when you zoom in on something like that, you wouldn't see it all as one green curve. So that's why it's a bit tricky when you want to zoom in on curves that show time frames like these. And in order to do so, it also gets tricky whether you put the start of the wave where I just put it, or you put it at this one. And when you do that, for example, and go to the 1 day time frame, you're gonna see that each one showed a stochastic wave. Like this one, for example, here, it showed at this start one, and then this one is showing another one. So you either treat those as two different waves on the MTF, like that, so this is one wave and that's the other, or you try to find a time frame that is showing them as one together. So and even if you treat those as two waves, you would probably still expect this to do something like that and continue downwards. So probably this is gonna be doing something like this and then going downwards. And let's just try and take a look at different time frames to be able to assess it better, because when that happens, you need to reevaluate the time frame you're looking at, and reevaluate which wave you want to be analyzing, because it can be simply that you're looking at the wrong time frame combination. So let's just toggle between time frames to see better. Yeah, I'm not really seeing much unless we are going to be looking at this whole, like here, for example, on the 2 day and 3 day, it seems like you can see this whole wave as one, and it's currently diverging on both the 2 day and the 3 day, because on the 2 day you can see this green curve diverging, because in general it's going up while the price is going down. And even while it's doing that, for example, on the 3 day, you are having this tap down and fake down. So if you would mark the start of it like that, in order to zoom in, this here is a fake down. And if you want to see it on a smaller time frame, you would probably go to the 6 hours or 4 hours. And since I'm not seeing much, I'm not gonna make any assumptions based on the MTF. You can trade this based on other means, but the MTF for this one is not really clear, so I'm just skipping this one. And yeah, I think I'm gonna stop at these. And now let's move on to Bitcoin. So immediately when I look at Bitcoin, one thing I'm seeing is, one thing I'm seeing on the 10-day and also the 1-week chart is that we are currently tapping up. So this here is showing like one wave, and this green MTF is showing like it's coming down. So what this is telling you is simply that this did this probably like an ABC. Let me just draw it here. Like an A, B, and then C. This was also similar to the count of my friend and partner in the group as. And as you can see, this is currently looking like it already had peaked, and now it's gonna probably go it's gonna be somewhere between the 20 and 22k range. So if we were to draw this line here, and then the next one here, or we just draw a box. And we've already had this tested multiple times. So we had this tested here once. Here, let me just mark this for you. We had this test here and then here. So I think maybe this is going to go down and then continue upwards. That's one possibility. So for now, the outlook of BTC is bearish for me. Short term, long term, I'm still leaning towards bullish, but short term it's bearish. And also one quick thing to do is, if you wanted to zoom in on this to actually try to confirm whether it's done or not, applying the same rules that we applied over and over now, what you can do is simply mark the start like we've been doing, and then zoom in on a 1/10 of a time frame. So 1 week should be somewhere between the 12-hour and the 1-day time frame. And if we start with the 12-hour, you can see this having this clear stochastic wave here. Let me just highlight it for you. So that's the green wave. So whether this was actually faking up and then it closed the gap. So here it was faking up, so that was peaking, and it actually closed the gap. And you can see also this, like my friend as posted also on the group, was a clear ABC. So and then maybe something like that. Or maybe just 1 of 1. Maybe something like this. Who knows? We're gonna be seeing it. So for now, yeah, I think, as I said, for now, this is just bearish for me. Also, this is starting to look like the 1 day is curving down straight. So regardless if we're gonna do a last one up and then down or just straight down from here, as I said, for me it's looking bearish on the MTF, and hence the outlook for BTC for me is same as for that this is probably gonna do something like that, and then we're gonna start the new curve upwards. That's one possibility. The second possibility, you can see if we start zooming outwards bit by bit, which is, for example, the 10-day. It's not showing it, but I want to keep zooming out until I show you one specific thing. So for example, the 2 weeks is not saying much. Why? Because you have here gray above green, and it's hard to, I never take a trade, I never trade along based on such a shape. That's neither a fake down or a tap down that looks usually like that, because now when you see gray coming above green so early, usually what happens is this is gonna have to test again downwards. So if we were to go to the 3-day, this is looking like a fake down that was trying to pull up, but it didn't really succeed yet. So usually what you want to see is this blue one curving upwards. So to me, this looks like a failed one up to now. Depends on the next couple of weeks, but for now it looks like this is gonna not play out, like it's gonna do that and then blue still coming down. If we continue on zooming out, for example, now a month, it's looking the same like 3 weeks. And if you zoom out to the 6 weeks chart next, not saying much, but if you reach the 2 month, you're gonna be seeing that we were faking upwards and now we're starting our way down. So this one would be a very bearish scenario. Why? Because it means that all of this here was one wave, and that the start of this wave was where this fake out started, like here. And if you do that and you want to zoom in, you would want to zoom in first by dividing the current time frame by a 10th. So 2 months are 60 days, and since crypto is working all week long, so you head to the 6-day chart. And when you do that, or even a 1 week, and you consider that this green curve here is already the gray fake up on the 2 month, and it needs now to collect, then you would probably think that this is the last step up. And with this, you would probably think that this is gonna go down, these are gonna go down, but not as a correction, but rather as a strong move down, like on the macro time frame. So let me just draw it on a larger time frame for you, but let's just clean up first. If you were to think that this is gonna happen like that, you would probably think that this is gonna be a wave that's gonna go all the way down like that, and then it's gonna go up again. Why? Because usually when a fake up goes like that, it has to correct properly until the start of it, if not more. So this is a very bearish scenario where this is gonna either go all the way to the lows or even below them, and then we're gonna see another wave upwards. So that's the second scenario, and it's, as I said, it's very bearish. So we'll take it from there, or not from there. We'll see after the correction, the ABC. We're gonna be re-evaluating when this correction is done, if it plays out, and we'll take it from there. So if you want to find a way to profit from both, you could be targeting a short here And let's just try to see how. So you could be targeting a short here by simply opening the short with a stop loss above, here, stop loss above 29,100 or even 29,280. And then you can extend this at least to the bottom of that. That would make for a nice risk reward. That's something you could be doing if you're leaning towards the bearish scenarios. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm sorry guys that it took so long, but I've been very busy today with other things. I'm gonna try and make these market updates more frequent. And yeah, good luck to everyone. Have a great evening. Bye bye.